Hello and welcome back to TST. If you're new to the channel, tap on the subscription button and press the notification bell so you can receive news and updates that you can rely on daily.
Flynn's lawyer speculates about Mueller's mental acuity. Some neurological problem. A lawyer for former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn questions special counsel Robert Mueller's mental acuity as Flynn's legal team seeks to dismiss the charges against him. It seems like some neurological problem has evolved there for Mr. Mueller. I don't know how soon that started. Ultimately, he is responsible for all of this because he was supervising the investigation. Sidney Powell told John Catsimatidis on the Cats Roundtable radio show on Sunday. Flynn, who served as President Trump's national security advisor for less than a month, pleaded guilty in 2017 to lying to the FBI about his conversations with a Russian diplomat before Trump entered the White House. While working with his previous legal team, Flynn cooperated with Mueller's team in the Russia investigation, but his new team, which includes Powell, has been more aggressive in fighting the charges, and Flynn has declared his innocence, claiming he was set up by the FBI. Mueller's mental acuity was heavily scrutinized after he testified to Congress about the Russia investigation and appeared not to know the key facts about the inquiry. He was previously considered to be sharp and competent. People close to Mueller said they believed, quote, something happened to the former FBI director over the course of the 2-year Russia investigation, according to a Washington Post reporter. Phil Rucker and I, my co-author, were not medical professionals, but over and over again, John, we heard from people who are very close to Bob Mueller who found him a different person, a changed person after 2 years of this investigation, Carol Lenning said in January. Take a good listen to Sidney Powell's interview in the Cats Roundtable radio show.
Well, first we have to thank Attorney General Barr and John Durham and his team and Mr. Jensen, the U.S. Attorney from Missouri that Mr. Barr appointed secretly and independently, apparently, back in January of this year to review the Flynn file and the prosecutions by the special counsel team in particular. And he has just, within the last week, produced to us in response to my Brady demands for exculpatory evidence with respect to the general's case, absolutely stunning documents that are turning the entire case and FBI upside down, including the special counsel operation, because now we have the evidence in their own handwriting that they were setting up General Flynn. They knew he was innocent. They had already cleared him on January 4th of anything related to the Russia Crossfire Hurricane investigation. They had completely exonerated him on that. And then all of a sudden, on January 5th or so, Peter Strzok, the FBI agent, apparently at the direction of the 7th floor, according to some text messages, which means Comey and McCabe, insisted that the file on Flynn stay open. They started what they knew was a bogus Logan Act investigation, as if he had done something wrong by talking to Ambassador Kislyak as a member of the presidential transition team, despite the fact they had transcripts of those calls, and they knew he had done nothing illegal. He was literally doing his job. They used that as a pretext to continue to pursue him.
Most Americans don't know about the Logan Act. Can you explain to them the Logan Act and how often it's used?
Yes. It's a statute that's over 100 years old that no one has ever been convicted under, and I think only one person was even attempted to be prosecuted under it. So it's ludicrous even to invoke it, but it's supposed to prohibit individuals that are not members of the government from pretending to do anything with foreign officials on behalf of the government. But of course, as I said, he was a member of the presidential transition team, so even if that statute were valid and had ever been prosecuted, which it's not, he would have been covered under it anyway because he was doing his job as a part of a member of the presidential transition team.
They made him spend millions and millions of dollars in legal fees, and they broke him. And then they went out and wanted to go after his son. Is that how they finally got it?
After the Strzok page text messages, after the news media apparently got hold of them and special counsel knew that was all going to blow up in their face, they had to fire Strzok at the end of July 2017. So then all of a sudden, that's when they grossly escalate their special counsel operation to try to cover for what they know is going to blow up in their face. That's when they go after Manafort in grand scale, and then they start putting the pressure on Flynn, extraordinary pressure. They bring him in for a proffer, and they threaten pretty soon to indict him and his son immediately if he doesn't enter a plea of guilty. He was represented by counsel under an egregious conflict of interest. The Covington and Burling law firm, which is headed by Eric Holder, was representing him because they had done the Foreign Agent Registration Act filing that the government required of him. As soon as he got in the White House, he was besieged with information about that, demanding that, even though that was not true either. It was one false thing after the other, John, and it's all coming out and blowing up in their faces. I am sure now, from what I'm seeing, that Attorney General Barr and Durham are going to hold people accountable because there is evidence of obstruction of justice by them, of crimes like obstruction of Congress and perjury in front of Congress, probably false statements to federal agents themselves. Any number of offenses are being demonstrated by the actual documents held inside the FBI. That also means that the FBI has been sitting on this evidence that was due to General Flynn all of this time. They knew they were making up a case. Special counsel especially knew they were making up a case. They even entered into a secret side deal with Flynn's counsel not to disclose to the court or anyone else that they had promised not to indict his son if he entered his plea of guilty. That makes the plea coerced. General Flynn, of course, knew about that promise, but he didn't understand the legal ramifications of it and the prosecution's ethical obligation to disclose that.
So his own law firm, that was Eric Holder's law firm, was crossing him by agreeing to that?
Well, it should have been disclosed, that's for sure. They knew it was a secret side deal, and they knew they were keeping it secret expressly to help the prosecution avoid its Brady and Giglio obligation to disclose that information to any future defendant against whom General Flynn might testify. And it was part of the cooperation agreement. It was a material term of the plea agreement, but it was omitted from all the documentation to keep it secret to help the prosecution.
Now, Mueller, who was a very smart, very nice man. I met him before. He spoke before Police Athletic League in New York. Had he gotten Alzheimer's or something? When he testified before Congress, he sounded like he knew nothing about anything.
Yes, it seems like some neurological problem has evolved there for Mr. Mueller, but I don't know how soon that started. I mean, ultimately, he's responsible for all of this because he was supervising the investigation. It was supposed to be his investigation. I knew when he hired Andrew Weissman to assist with it that it was really going to be Weissman's operation, and this is textbook Andrew Weissman, dirty, dirty, dirty prosecution. He should be held accountable as well since he was really running the show. It's
so all these people,
government misconduct after the other.
All these people, all the bad apples and I call them the bad apples at the FBI because 99.9% of the FBI I admire in the Justice Department, but there's a few bad apples ganged up together to get General Flynn. And I mean, the American people want anybody with an IQ of over 100 realize what's going on now, and they want justice. Are the American people going to have justice? Are these people going to pay for their sins?
I think they will, John, because I think Attorney General Barr knows it's now or never. This has only gotten worse. I mean, you know that I wrote my book, License to Lie, and self-published it in 2014. The conduct I document in there has been going on since at least 2001. So we've got to bring it to a screeching halt now because it's only gotten worse. We cannot let people in the government get by with committing crimes that they send people, good citizens, to prison for. It's just completely, it's backwards. The government should be held to a higher standard, not a lesser one, and given a pass to commit crimes against the citizens they're supposed to protect and screw over the laws they're supposed to enforce.
Especially the Department of Justice and the FBI, who as a kid I grew up respecting them and looking up to them, and a few bad apples are trying to ruin their name.
Well, I'm afraid it's more than a few bad apples. It's more widespread than anybody wants to think about. The entire culture is going to have to be changed, and a mindset reinstated that existed in the old days, that they are to do everything correctly by everyone, and remember that it's the citizens of the United States that they serve, not their own interests, their own political ambitions, their own hubris, their own narcissism, like James Comey and Andrew McCabe and Jim Baker and a bunch of other people.
Well, Sidney Powell, attorney for General Flynn, you do God's work, and you've done God's work for General Flynn, and I must commend you in getting justice in our country and resuming having permanent justice, regardless if you're a Democrat or a Republican.
Exactly. Political ideology shouldn't make a bit of difference here. It's about fundamental fairness, the rule of law, and due process, what every American is entitled to.
Sidney Powell, are you still selling your book? Tell us about it.
Oh, yeah. License to Lie, Exposing Corruption in the Department of Justice is available on my website at sidneypowell.com. And we're also posting there all the documents that the government is producing to us. They're attached as exhibits to my motions. There's a whole Flynn page under the media tab on that website. And we're also posting the briefing so people can see everything for themselves. Do not rely on what the regular media is telling you, because none of it is correct.
And Sidney Powell, I understand you have a new book, too. Tell us.
I do. It's called Conviction Machine, Standing Up to Federal Prosecutorial Abuse. Harvey Silverglate and I co-authored it. Harvey, if you'll recall, wrote 3 Felonies a Day that came out about the same time License to Lie did. So in Conviction Machine, we identify probably about 9 major areas of government abuse in the criminal litigation process, and then we propose some solutions for it. So I would commend it to everyone's reading. I do address a number of issues in the Flynn litigation there, because the Flynn case exemplifies every single thing wrong with our criminal justice system, from why the innocent can be forced to plead guilty to things that need to be done to correct grand juries, the Brady Rule, false statement prosecutions, recording interviews, immunity deals, and everything.
Share your thoughts and responses in the comments down below. If you've liked this report, let us know by tapping that like button down below, share the news among friends and family, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned for more news and updates on TST. I'm David Ravine, and I'll see you in the next one.